Hey gang, just wanted to give you a little information for those of you that see this before class. First thing, if you haven't done it already, there are two ISO files you need to download. There's an A and a B ISO. Now you don't need the B ISO until the last day of class, but make sure that you've downloaded the A ISO. Now when you mount that ISO, here's what you'll see. You can see that we've got documents, extras, install tools, Rockbit timelines, tools, live acquisitions, and here's the big thing that you're looking for. You want to look for that Windows SIFT Workstation 7-zip. I like to just drag or copy that Windows SIFT Workstation 7-zip out of the ISO, and generally I put it on my desktop. Now you need to un-7-zip that file. If you're on a Windows host and you've got 7-zip already installed, all you need to do is right-click on the file, then choose 7-zip, then extract here. If you don't have 7-zip already installed on your computer, no worries. I got you covered. All you have to do is come to that AISO right here in the Install Tools directory. You double click on that and you can see you've got a 7-zip folder, and right there is your 7-zip installer. Now, for those of you on a Mac, well, don't worry, everything just works. All you have to do is double click to mount your ISO, and then after dragging that Windows SIFT Workstation onto your desktop, you just double click it and it'll automatically un-7-zip. Now, if you want, in the install folder, we've also got this little Kika folder, and that's the macOS Kika zip utility. You can install that if you have any problem. All right, so now when you launch that Windows 7 SIFT Workstation by double-clicking on the VMX file, it will automatically launch in your VMware Workstation or Player if you're on a Windows computer, or if you're on a Mac, your VMware Fusion or Player utility, no problem. Now, when that launches up, let's go ahead and launch that right now. What you'll see is you'll first get a little splash screen. This Windows SIFT Workstation has a Windows license already installed in it. The end user license agreement, if you read that thing, maybe we've got some lawyers out there will tell you that this is good for 4 months. After 4 months, we ask you to just put your own Windows license in there. So we pay for 4 months worth of license. After that, it's the Honor program and it's on you. Now here's our Windows SIFT Workstation as it comes up. If you just double click, you get the end user license agreement, and of course the password for your SIFT Workstation is DFIR rocks, as if you didn't know. Now, when Windows first opens, one of the things that some of you will see is that all of our little icons and everything, all of our NIMs or fences as they call them, are all jammed up in the top left-hand corner. All that is that your resolution on your system is different from the one when we first installed. And all you have to do is just click right here in the title of these fences, and you can pull those out wherever you want them. For me, what I like to do is I like to have my forensic tools right over here in the top left-hand corner. You can grab this little side here or the bottom, and you can adjust these for your preferences. So let me just get mine arranged. You can arrange yours any way you want, or hey, if you're really into it, you can arrange them exactly how I've got them arranged. Okay, you certainly don't have to be as neurotic as me getting those icons all organized, but that's okay. So the next thing, what I like to have you guys do is once you've got your SIFT Workstation set up on your system just as you want it, go ahead and come down here to the Start menu, the Power button, and shut down. Now this is just an option, but one of the things that I like to do is this SIFT Workstation is built with 4 gig of RAM. It's set for 2 processors and 4 gig of RAM. Well, what self-respecting forensicator only has 4 gig of RAM? And as a matter of fact, if you only had 4 gig of RAM, this would be problematic on your system. But one of the things I like to do is go into my settings over here to process and memory. I like to give it 4 processor cores, and I typically like to give it at least 8 to 16 gig of RAM. A good rule of thumb is how much RAM do you have on your system? I've got a little system here with 32 gig of RAM, so I could really comfortably give it half of my host's RAM. Don't give it more than half of your host, and that is going to make your performance much better. Now, you'll notice I said this is after you shut it down because you can't do this while it's running. You can't adjust RAM or cores while it's running. Now, you don't have to do this. There's one other thing that I like to do. You see this little sharing button. It's slightly different on a Windows machine. One of the things I like to do is I like to enable shared folders. And I come over here and I add my host desktop. So I clicked on my desktop, I add that right there, and now when I start up my SIFT workstation, what you will see is that I can navigate to my host system's desktop. So if I put anything there, I can then open it up with the full version of Microsoft Office, which I have on my host system. I'll show you just what I'm talking about here in a second. There we go. Now what you can see is I've got my network right there. If I click on my network and my VMware host, there's my shared folders, and guess what? There is my host system's desktop. Now for me, to make it easy the rest of class, I say send to desktop shortcut. And now anything that I want to put in that desktop, let's say I create a comma separated value file and I wanted to open it up with Excel, I can just drop it right here on this desktop and I can open it up on my host system. So that's one of the things that I like to do. All right, so that's just a couple of things that I like to do with my SIFT workstation. One last thing that I might as well mention, just in case you're watching this and getting all prepared before class, is after you get your SIFT workstation set up just the way that you like it, particularly if you don't have the full version of VMware Workstation or VMware Fusion where you can take snapshots. And you know what? Even if you do, what I like to do is I shut my virtual machine down and then I go to my desktop where I've got that folder that has my virtual machine. And what I like to do is I like to duplicate it, actually make a copy of that folder and put it on a piece of external media. I love these little Samsung T5 drives, amazingly fast. You can get one of those for like $99 for 500 gig. Easily hold your virtual machine, and I put it on there. That's great for if you have to transition to another machine, if you need a clean virtual workstation later, or you know what, just everything gets foobarred during class and you need to get back up and running really fast. That is definitely the way to do it. Now, we start class on day one, usually at 8:30. We give you some time, and first half of day one is a lot of lecture. It gives you a chance to listen to me while you're getting your virtual workstation up and running, getting it configured, because I know not everybody's going to see this video ahead of time, but hey, I thought I'd put it out there. Looking forward to seeing you in class. We're going to have a great time forensicating.